Hey, what's up? This is part 17 on the series where I read the post-its that I found on the Union Square subway station. This was a few days after Donald Trump won his first term as president. And with this series, I kind of just read these and I keep in mind that people literally mean things figuratively. They didn't literally mean what they wrote there. Like, I didn't literally mean people are going to get on a Trump train, like you see the posted on the screen right now, which is one that I wrote, and go to a physical location called Magaland, but it's more about the Trump effect. The Trump train was what people were calling the whole excitement and interest and support and dislike, just the whole Trump effect. That was the Trump train. And Magaland is playing on the Make America Great Again. And what does that mean? Let's say it's a Disney World type of place. It's an idea. It's a place. What does that mean? Going to a place where that Make America Great Again is a new place. It's kind of like the Neverland type of idea, if you want to think about it in that sense. The Neverland in that Peter Pan kind of sense. Once you get to that place, what is that place? What does it mean to get to that place? What does it mean for everybody else? And that's what this series is. Get to So I'm going to open up with just a little short thing on current affairs. Right now, there has been a global pandemic. I'm recording this on April 17th of 2020. And the United States of America, Donald Trump just came out and he finally released, after some contentious times, I'll talk about this in separate videos, some contentious times between him and the media and these pressers and opposing people who are opposing him, people who are supporting him. It's been a back and forth type of thing, but I think it's been positive. A lot of people have been hearing about Donald Trump secondhand, third hand, and things like this, hearing what reporters and articles and what their leaders say about this. But I think with this situation, this is one of the first times a lot of people have actually gotten to see Donald Trump talking live. And even in a more specific sense, talking live and not just in a rally where he's just giving his own thing, but talking about something that's affecting everyone in the world in a way. And this is part of that Trump train to Magaland thing that we're saying, that Trump is going to affect everyone in some kind of way. So people get to see him directly interacting with the press. And I've seen some people in the press who are more detractors of Trump saying this makes Trump look ridiculous. Like, finally, the world is seeing how ridiculous he is. But for me, I'm seeing it on the other side. And you can tell me, you can watch them for yourself. They're all online. The live streams of these things are online. You can go to White House YouTube channel and find all of them, or just search. Many other people post them up there. And you can see, for me, I'm seeing them like, look, in my estimation, it seems like the reporters are being rather petulant because a lot of people in their countries know that their reporters could not speak to their president in that way, yet they're being told that Donald Trump is a tyrant. And just a simple example, imagine if Xi Jinping, the chancellor, emperor, whatever of China, president of the Chinese Communist Party, had himself, from when this thing broke, actually sat there and given these daily press briefings about what was happening. Call in Chinese experts, call in members of the Chinese private sector, whatever it exists there, and says, this is what we're doing about it. The numbers today in Wuhan with this virus are this, and then these are the numbers tomorrow. This is what we're trying to do. This is what we're talking about with the rest of the world. If he was doing that, imagine how different of a world that would be. But now you look at Trump coming out daily with these things and being treated in this way by the media, who says he's a horrible person, who is saying this is a tyrant, and just that back and forth. So for a lot of people, now you can actually see it for yourself, and you be the judge of that. Let me know what you guys think from these interactions. And I would rather you actually watch them for yourself. I understand the media covering it in a certain way, because this is kind of like the situation where the police are supposed to help people, but then in that movie trope kind of sense, if a policeman gets killed by a criminal or gets hurt, you find those policemen are extra amped up in order to actually get this criminal, even more than it was just a regular civilian, even though their job is supposed to be to protect civilians over the police and things like this. But it comes to this, I understand reporters would want to kind of look out for each other and defend each other. Kind of like, I have your back, you have my back, some kind of understanding of that interior fraternity, brotherhood, sorority, or whatever. They're just that group. So to finish this off, I'm going to go to the Saul 3. Right now, Donald Trump just finally released his whole Open Up America plan, and I think the rest of the world will take what the world leader does. As I said, the world leader in the sense that the United States is a leading country. It sets example for a lot of people. So they're going to look to them and say if the United States is opening up again and they already have these set plans, other countries can kind of be given the go-ahead to do it. They can look at the United States and those guidelines, and then they can adjust them for their country and for their reality and say, okay, now we can do it too. And we won't be judged in a negative way because many countries, at least I'll tell you from here recording this in Nairobi, Kenya, there were people who were saying, look, that country, look, the United States of America has shut down, so you have to have a shutdown here. And that's why I've been saying the Trump Train to Magaland is for everyone. It's not just Americans. It's not just supporters. It's not just detractors. Even if you have never heard of Trump, some of the things he does are going to affect your life and have affected your life over these last 4 years. So anyway, that's happening. So now people are going to start looking about what was this thing? Was it success? Was it not? And I'd like to apply the Thomas Sowell 3 to this, and this is by economist Thomas Sowell. He asks these questions mostly for leftists when it comes to economics in order to kind of parse out what they're talking about, and I think economics is a way you can look at a lot of things in the world. So I like applying these 3 questions that he has to other things, and I'm going to give you the 3 questions, just some thoughts on it, when we're talking about this coronavirus situation. When you're actually saying, what has happened with this? When you're talking about compared to what? That's the first question. Compared to what? A lot of people will be looking at this to say, compared to what? What did my country do compared to other countries? What was the death toll compared to what was predicted to begin with? At what time did we do XYZ compared to what other countries did XYZ? And I'm glad that we're living in a time where this evidence is going to be there for people to actually find. And one of my main distractions in some of the things that are being discussed here, people were saying the death toll is going to be this. I'm like, compared to what? How do you know? The danger of this is what? Compared to what? What is the denominator? You're saying this number of people have died compared to what number of people actually have the disease. That answer still has not been answered because we still don't know how many people actually have it compared to how many have died. Okay. The next one is at what cost? And I think this is something that will start being figured out. Part of the reason some of these reopenings have happened is people are realizing how connected economies are. And this is one thing they're talking about. This thing has made me realize how little people really do understand about how economies work. I am pro-globalization in the sense that I think this is the way the world is going, and I would rather we have people do this out of choice. The current system has had lack of choice because it's a state creature that benefits small amounts of people at the detriment of the most of the people involved in this. Maybe not the direct detriment. Some people are having slightly improved standards of life, but I think if there was more choice, if there was more liberty in this, it would benefit everyone a lot more than it is now. So at what cost is going to be a question, and a lot of people might be sitting there sniffing there saying like, oh, one death is enough. And I just kind of joked around like with Donald Trump, someone's going to fact check him and say like technically one death by definition is not too many. Like it's, okay, anyway. But people are going to start seeing that, and some people have the comfort to say that, oh, we need to shut down an entire economy to save 10 lives, to save 100 lives. But we're going to start seeing how many actual people were harmed by the shutdown itself. We're going to start seeing the cost monetarily of these things. We're already seeing big stimulus, influxes of monies, and all these kind of things, businesses closing, people going out to work. That's a cost that's there that's actually going to be something that people are going to have to actually discuss and see. And the facts are actually there. The information is actually there. And that leads us to the last question, which is what solid proof do you have? And again, as I've mentioned, this is a different time. There's the internet. There's so much information out there. There's people who put news stories up who turn it down. In the past, you could just have the newspapers just don't go out, or you just find ways to hide these things. Somebody has an interview, somebody, they have right connections. That company wants to have an interview with this person again, so that person says, can you make this interview disappear? That interview disappears and things like this. But this is a different time. People go on and stream themselves. They post these things online. There's archives that keep these things. There's people who tweet things out. You can actually see solid evidence. So there will be actually solid evidence to say, if you're saying Trump did something too late, and yet majority of the other countries did that thing that you're saying Trump did too late after Trump did it, how come you're not holding those other countries responsible as well? Or maybe those other countries did it later and it didn't really have an effect. So we're actually going to see what solid proof do people have to say Trump did this should have been better this way. this, what solid proof are you going to have to say we should have done this at this time? So the evidence is going to be out there. We're going to actually have information. It's going to be a great time, an unfortunate situation, but I think in general this is going to be better. This is going to prepare people for the realities that we're living in. People are going to have to rethink what we've been doing, why we've been doing it that way. Could we have done things better? And I think we can. And I think we have the ability to do some of these things better. And I think this global reset of sorts is going to be beneficial for everybody involved. Me, you, some people have been lost. That is unfortunate, but I think this will bring most of us together in a positive way. Okay, now on to the post-its. And the first one is, it'll be okay, we got this. And just going with what I was finishing off as I was saying that, it's not necessarily okay. I ask, what is okay in your mind? What do people have in mind when they think of okay? Like, what did this person think? I'm wondering, what was the threat? Was this a supporter, or was this somebody who was against Trump? Were they buying into the media narrative that Trump was going to destroy the United States of America? Or were they for the narrative that he's actually not that bad, so they're trying to tell people, like, hey, he's actually not that bad, it's okay? Is this somebody who's saying, we got this, in the sense that, oh, we are the resistance, so despite him winning, we'll be able to take this down? Or is this just an American saying, hey, we're Americans, we got this, he won, you might have not liked him, but now he's in there, I have enough trust in the United States of America, I have enough trust in humanity, we got this, we can prevent any horrible negative things that you think he might do? Or maybe they're like, hey, this is just what we got, and think about it. And this is how I think on this situation. We've seen the world come together in very unique ways. We're still seeing some divisions out there from this pandemic situation, but I think I've seen more coming together. And this is just the start. There's still a lot of panic out there. There's still a lot of people reacting to things. And I think eventually when we look back on this 10 years down the line, people will have this in a very positive light, in a much more positive light than people are seeing it now. That is something that I am rather confident about. And I think, let's say this was somebody who was a detractor of Trump, and then they thought that, oh, Trump is going to be horrible, he's going to be the worst president ever. And then this time comes by, this pandemic comes by, and then people, some of the earlier predictions were saying 2 million Americans dead and things like that. That comes out and they say that. And then the person thinks, finally, I thought we got this, but now Trump is still in here. We almost got to the end of the 4 years. We could have voted him out and put Joe Biden in there or something. And we'd have had that then. And then Trump is going to destroy this. And then now it turns out to be, I think they're at about, let me check, 34,784 deaths. That's what has been found right now in the United States of America, with 56,127 recovered, and 676,676 confirmed cases. So we haven't even gotten up to the number of confirmed cases with the actual disease that the deaths were being predicted to be. So after that, do you really think that this is not getting this? Do you think this is a thing where somebody would think from that, oh, Trump bungled it, he ruined it, he actually killed many Americans? Like, we have a lot of people on the media coming out and saying, and not just the media, you have people like Bernie Sanders, other people coming out and saying a lot of people are dead because Trump is president. Okay? No actual numbers being mentioned, but, oh, we would have done this differently, because most of the things he's done, if you actually watch the most recent one, which was on the 16th, if you watch his presser on that one when he rolls it out, I don't think he left people much to actually complain about. There's really not much you can say that, oh, this is going to be different, because this was a rather practical, sensible rollout plan. I think you're not going to find many people detracting what was laid out in that plan. People, from what I've seen, are saying, oh, there's not enough details. He hasn't given enough deadlines. But when they talk about the detractions about Trump, they don't give details. They don't give deadlines. They don't talk about, oh, these exact numbers are the things we could have done different by doing this. If he opened this earlier, if he closed down earlier, it's just more hypotheses and just proposing things without any actual backing of actual details. Because some of the things are just hard to know. And on top of all of this, what if China had shut down a week after they found the first test versus what if all these other countries would have done it? On to the next one. All lives matter, but let's focus on the marginalized. Now, this all lives matter thing, I think somebody comes in, all lives matter was somebody who put that by itself. It seems to be a different handwriting than the but let's focus on the marginalized. All lives matter was kind of a pushback to the whole Black Lives Matter movement, which is a movement that came up. I have a series on that called Black Lives Matter, so I'll try to leave a link to that if I remember. I have a series on that if you haven't heard about it, if you're hearing this internationally, but it's a movement, it's a kind of activism movement that came up in the United States of America that I think it began with the Trayvon Martin or the Michael Brown situation, and both those initial issues that brought it up, those initial stories, have been found to be lacking in evidence. The Mike Brown issue was a hands up, don't shoot thing. It was found out that that didn't happen as it was said. The Trayvon Martin thing, the guy was a lot older than most of the pictures that were showing. There was some questions with actually how violent he was in that interaction. There was this term called white Hispanic coming up so they can set up that race kind of aspect of it when they found out George Zimmerman was actually Hispanic. So there is this kind of dynamics that are questionable with that. I have many issues with the movement. I have already talked about this before, how black issues themselves, black people are a special tribe of people in the United States of America that are mostly descendant of slaves, and they don't really have as much concern with the plight of Negroes, of sub-Saharan Africans, of just black people in the world in general. And that's okay. You can have very specific issues towards specific groups. That's something I understand. I'm not completely against that for that fact. So All Lives Matter is saying, instead of saying that, let's just talk about All Lives Matter because other people have issues. Now here with let's focus on the marginalized. There's been something coming out and saying in certain cities, most of these cities have high percentage of black population. I'll take it, for example, in Louisiana. They said something like 30% of the people in Louisiana are black, yet there's 70% of the people who actually have gotten ill from the CCP virus. So now people are starting to say, oh, there's some racism in this. A lot of black people are getting ill in the United States of America at a higher rate than white people, at a higher rate than their population. So that means this is proof of some kind of institutionalized racism. And some people seem to be parroting this, agreeing with this. But now you look at globally, and the people that die, not just get ill, people who actually die from the CCP virus, it's 50% more men than women. Whereas in the United States of America, it's 30% more than the population numbers of blacks that get ill. Not die, get ill. So if one is actual example of institutionalized racism, is the other one an example of institutionalized sexism? What do you think? So we'll just go a little bit long here and let me move on to the next one. And here we're going to go with, you can't shock the gay out of teenagers. Now, for some of you, you might not really be aware of this. We might actually be getting more where people understand more about Trump. But I think one positive thing that is seen from this kind of back and forth, another addition thing, is this has also introduced a lot of people to who Vice President Mike Pence is. Now, there was this Electric Pence meme about this claim that that Mike Pence, while he was governor of Indiana, was supportive of electric therapy to shock the gay out of people, to convert people who were homosexual out of being homosexual. There's this thing of the shock therapy. And that's the thing. Just recently, there was a consensus by expert scientists in fields that you could use electroshock therapy to actually treat certain things. There was lobotomies. There was all kinds of horrific things in the field of science. Yet people act like science is just some people act like science is some infallible thing, but we've made leaps and bounds. And as well, some people are thinking, oh, this is going to be horrific. And we have made certain leaps and bounds because we can actually get the DNA of the thing. We can actually find and identify this thing. We can act and react to things in an entirely different way. We're not back in 1915 when the Spanish flu started, when that influenza started and killed millions of people. We are better prepared to deal with this. We are much better prepared to deal with this. So we shouldn't be so worried about that. But at the same point, we should realize there were some really questionable things. So it's a mixed bag, what I'm saying. So anyway, with this thing, I'm talking about narratives. People just talk about narratives. Something comes out and they say this is going to happen, and then you're like, okay, is this actually true? Is this true? Mike Pence, is he really Electric Pence? Is he somebody that's actually done that? I didn't actually think it was actually there, so I decided to go check in Snopes, and this is what Snopes says. So did Mike Pence support gay conversion therapy? While running for Congress, Indiana Governor Mike Pence called for a state funding for institutions working to enable people to change their sexual behavior. So he did that. So Mike Pence, in the claim, supported gay conversion therapy, including the use of electroshock therapy. The rating is mixture, and Snopes is a site that checks if something is true or not. So they say, what's true? Mike Pence once supported the use of federal funding to treat people seeking to change sexual behavior. What's false? Pence never stated that he supported the use of electroshocks or gay conversion therapy. So now there's going to be a link, or you can find it to check it on Snopes, and you can find information about that more. So that's not there, but that meme stays. That meme about Mike Pence stays. It actually continues, and people just think that is Electric Pence. Some people still think about that. They still think he actively hates gays. He is very Christian, and there is a tie with that. Christianity is not pro-homosexuality. There's some very brutal things in the Bible about Christianity. So I can understand people making those connections. But we live in a time where you can find information, you can understand, is this actually what the man stands for? Is this how the man actually is? And then just another thing I've seen is just the back and forth, seeing the braggadocious nature of Donald Trump, and then the very composed political, like traditional political way Mike Pence answers things. It's been interesting. I think Mike Pence might be actually in there shoo-in for running in 2024, and he's only 60 now. He could be one of the leaders for 2024 for the Republican Party. Okay, so on to the last one to finish this off. It's going to be a short one. It just says, have courage. And this is a good one. I think this is a good thing. It's a tough time for many people. It's been a tough time. Some people have been ill. Some people have lost people. And just the general environment out there, it gets tough. So have courage as human species, as human society, as a culture. Have courage with each other that we can actually get through this, because I think we will. And we already are getting through this. And there might be some issues. There are going to be some tough topics to discuss. I think there have been some people who, there was such a strong social pressure in order to actually toe the line, or to say this is the most terrible thing. I've seen people saying, oh, anybody downplaying this is a horrible thing. But what is downplaying this? If somebody comes out and they say, okay, we're going to have 20 million dead, and people are saying this in February, and then I come out and say, that number sounds kind of high. I'm thinking it's probably going to be in a couple 100,000. It's still bad, but it's going to be hundreds of thousands. Am I downplaying that? Then when you have all this social pressure, how many people have the courage to come out and say, I think I disagree with these terms. We might be overestimating these things. How many people had the courage in a different sense, where you look at the people in China who had the courage to come out and expose what was happening in China? Some of these people have literally been disappeared. And we see that they did that, and they had more knowledge that they're living in a country that can literally disappear them. Literally just make them disappear from the face of the earth in front of everyone. These people know, the Chinese Communist Party knows. These people have told the world, they're aware, they're on the world's sphere, but we can still disappear them with some kind of impunity. Those people, the level of courage some of these people had to speak out against this regime has been very inspirational to me, and I think to a lot of other people out there. And you just look at that, when people talk about courage, do you think it takes courage for reporters to speak to Donald Trump as they do in those pressers? I don't think that takes courage. What is the actual threat? They might tell you he's some kind of despot. They might tell you he is Xi Jinping, but he isn't. That's not who Donald Trump is. What courage does it take to be a reporter? What courage does it take to be Jim Acosta in particular, this thing that made me cringe? With his six-figure, he makes $700,000 a year. That was his contract or something. He's making that amount of money, and he's sitting there. Why would you want to open the economy again? When there's millions of people, now there's 22 million Americans who have filed for unemployment. There's people who have filed, not just the people who are unemployed due to this shutdown. He's making $700,000. Supposedly so courageous, talking to the president as he does. While people are just starving, so people are committing suicide, people are getting abused. There's this tough situation to a lot of people in the world going on. Here in Kenya, there's people being shot. There's one 13-year-old kid got shot on his balcony because he was playing past curfew. You have people stampeding because they're trying to give food to people in the slums. The people are stampeding. They don't have money. People are living on less than $2 a day trying to feed their entire family off of these things. Where is courage? Where does the courage come from? When will you have courage to come out and say, like, I don't think we should be doing this. I don't think that person should be doing what they're doing. I think I'm going to stand up and say, like, hey, maybe this is wrong. Maybe some people should have had some more courage earlier to say certain things to prevent what was happening going on. Did the World Health Organization have enough courage to come up and say, okay, look, what China is saying might be wrong? Do people have the courage to stand up against these things? What is having courage in this situation? What was the actual threat? Was the threat of Donald Trump winning his first term something to be courageous about? something to stand up against. What were you standing up against? And then now that this second term is coming, and I still think it's going to be a landslide victory for Donald Trump, do you still need courage? Do you still need courage to stand up against Donald Trump? Or if you did support Trump, if you do have support for Trump, and back then you were feeling, okay, I can't really talk about this, I'm going to be treated in XYZ way by the community and things, do you have the courage to stand up and say, like, yeah, he's not that bad. You know, I actually kind of like the guy. He actually kind of didn't bungle this completely. Like what's your actual issue with him? I actually support him, and just have the courage to take whatever comes from that. Just be honest and come out and say that. Well, yeah. So that's it for now. This went a little longer. Sometimes I normally break these up into two videos. I think I'm going to keep this as one. Yeah, I went back and checked. I think I could have maybe broken this up before the electric pen thing, but I think it flows together as one video, and it kind of wraps up together with this courage thing. So there's more in this series. As I said, this is number 17. There's going to be merchandise on the screen if you want to help me out. There's different kind of designs out there. I think I'm going to have the Thomas Sowell one, the 3 questions. I think that's one that has sold pretty well. That's sold the best out of everything to have in my store. There's also links below to PayPal if you want to do a one-time donation. Like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you guys think about this whole situation that we've been in, the pandemic. Do you think it's over? What do you think return to normal, if there is some kind of normal, is going to happen? What do you think that looks like? What do you think actually has been your grade for what has gone on? Do you think things could have been handled better? What is your actual evidence? I mean, I think one thing is just good. Like, this is something people should have done earlier. Actually write down a list of what you think should have been done in a certain way, and then look to the future when we think and say, okay, this actually map out. So there's different things to think about. I think this is an excellent situation in the sense that this is the first time there's been a global thing that pretty much everybody has had some kind of exposure to. It's something that's going to make us be able to relate to each other and head back to and be like, okay, we can use this as a reference point to discuss a lot of issues that are going on in the world, because we all experience this at around the same time, in around the same way, but in different locations and having different points of views. And we might be able to have that one thing to actually unite us, to actually build off of, and then we can talk about all these other things as a human species, as Earthlings. Goodbye.